Hello my dear friends. Me David Nolan, with a new history topic in our channel. James A. Garfield. Who was James A. Garfield? James A. Garfield was the 20th President of the United States who was killed not long after his accepting office. Before turning into the president, he had served a few terms in the House of Representatives and had been a mission supervisor for Secretary of the Treasury John Sherman. Garfield had ascended to turn into the president from an exceptionally unassuming start. Naturally introduced to a devastated family in Ohio, he lost his dad while he was as yet a little kid. He battled all through his adolescence and looked for comfort in books. In spite of his troublesome youth not set in stone to get a well-rounded schooling and learned at Williams College, he before long joined legislative issues and turned into an ally of the recently coordinated Republican Party. At the point when the American Civil War broke out, he helped enroll the 42nd Ohio Volunteer Infantry and was made its colonel. He separated himself with his bravery and boldness at the skirmishes of Middle Creek, Shiloh, and Chickamauga, and was elevated to the position of brigadier general. He stayed dynamic in governmental issues throughout his tactical vocation and had acquired a standing as a conspicuous Republican legislator when the conflict finished. Garfield was selected as the Republican possibility for administration in 1880. He won the political decision and was confirmed as the president on March 4, 1881. His administration endured an extremely brief time as he passed on in September following a death endeavor. Adolescence and early life. James Garfield was brought into the world on November 19, 1831, in Ohio to Abram and Eliza Garfield. He was the most youthful of their 5 kids. His dad, a grappler, passed on when James was a baby, letting behind Eliza to battle for the kids. He experienced childhood in destitution and had a troublesome youth that was additionally confounded by his mom's grieved second marriage, which finished in separate. He stayed near his mom through every one of the difficult stretches. He cherished perusing since early on and dominated in scholastics, especially Latin and Greek. He went to the Western Reserve Eclectic Institute, later renamed Hiram College, from 1851 to 1854. Then, at that point, he went to Williams College, from where he graduated in 1856. Vocation. After finishing his investigations, he got back to Hiram College, where he was named teacher of antiquated dialects. He was made the school's leader in 1857. At this point, he had fostered a sharp keen on legislative issues and needed to seek after a vocation as a legislator. He likewise started considering law and was conceded to the bar in 1861. He went against subjection, and since his standards were like that of the Republicans, he joined the recently coordinated Republican Party. In 1859, he was chosen for the Ohio State Senate and served there till 1861. The American Civil War broke out in 1861 and Garfield helped enroll the 42nd Ohio Volunteer Infantry and turned into its colonel. He proceeded with his political profession also and was chosen for the U.S. Place of Representatives following the Battle of Shiloh, April 1862. He separated himself with his brave showcase of mental fortitude in the fights and turned into a much-regarded armed force man. After the Battle of Chickamauga, Garfield was elevated to the position of significant general. He served 9 terms in the House of Representatives until 1880, and that very year the Ohio Assembly chose him for the U.S. Senate. He was picked as the Republican official candidate to run for the 1880 official political decision. James Garfield confronted the Democrat General Winfield Scott Hancock in the political race. Both the men were Civil War veterans with eminent military professions. Garfield dispatched an extremely great political race with a mission memoir composed by the popular creator Horatio Alger, and proceeded to win the political race. He was introduced as the President of the United States on March 4, 1881, alongside Chester A. Arthur as the Vice President, a solid backer of racial uniformity. He was focused on the reason for social liberties. He unequivocally went against subjection and accepted that the national government should carry out a widespread schooling framework for the liberation of blacks. He likewise selected a few previous captives to noticeable government positions. He upheld the execution of innovation in agribusiness and proposed generous common assistance changes. Be that as it may, he never found the opportunity to make his arrangements a reality, as he was killed not long after turning into the president. Individual life and legacy. James Garfield wedded Lucretia Rudolph, a previous cohort, in November 1858. They had 4 children and a little girl who lived to development. Garfield had an extramarital illicit relationship with Lucia Calhoun in 1860s, however he later conceded this to his significant other and looked for her absolution. On July 2, 1881, he was shot on his back by Charles Julius Gittu at the railroad station in Washington, D.C. Gittu was a sincerely upset man who had neglected to get an arrangement in the Garfield organization. He gave up to the police after the shooting. The president was hurried to the medical clinic where a gathering of conspicuous specialists kept an eye on him. The odds of his endurance were thin from the earliest starting point, and he created blood harming and surrendered on September 19, 1881. The James A. Garfield Monument was devoted to him in Washington in 1887.